Welcome Lights Out family to another episode of After Dark with KK. Today KK bring you guys to perhaps the most haunted spot in Hong Kong, 2 High Street Sai Yin Poon.
Sai Yin 盤高街2號
Now widely known as Sai Yin Poon Community Complex, this beautiful colonial building had a more ominous name, the Old Mental Hospital. Built in 1892, the building used to be a living quarters for European nursing staff of the civil hospital. After Hong Kong had been occupied by the Japanese Imperial Army during the Second World War, the building was converted as a torture chamber for enemies of the army. Countless executions leading to the street along the building being littered with corpses. The building was converted to a mental hospital in 1947 after the war ended, and was the only asylum available for the whole of Hong Kong. It housed mental patients with a high tendency of suicides, and no one knew what sort of treatment was going on behind the brick and mortar. Even back in the 1960s, residents of the surrounding area would shun the building, as it was reported they could hear ghastly howls and other eerie noises emanating from that spot. After the mental hospital was relocated before the 1970s, the vacated and unguarded building became a haunt for young punks and drug addicts, leading to more urban legends being spread like wildfire. Talking about spreading fire, the building suffered a spat of arsons in the years that followed. Restoration work only was done on the north facade, while the Hong Kong government built a community centre within by the year 2001. In the year 2015, the Sai Yin Poon Community Complex was classified as Grade 1 Historic Building. According to Feng Shui Master, the entire high street is like a portal to the netherworld, and there had been unwavering grudges from the people killed during the World War or from the patients of the hospital, shrouding the land with a deathly remnant. During the filming of Hong Kong gangster movie Jianghu or Blood Brothers from 2004, the building was used as a location in the movie. One of the leads in the movie, Jackie Cheung, was preparing for his scene, but before he could start filming, he overheard one of the production crew telling the rest, "Look how fast Jackie is walking into the building." Cheung was dumbfounded and immediately told the film crew that he was still at his spot, but the director and many other eyewitnesses swore they saw him scurrying into the building. Just then, a loud cry for help could be heard from within the building, prompting the film crew to run towards the location, only to see an old man standing there. When asked what had happened, old man nonchalantly told them everything is fine, this happened every night. At that point of grasping with reality, the film crew then realized the old man who was there talking to them seconds ago had disappeared into thin air. One famous story was a spine-chilling experience by this journalist. When he was younger, he was watching the 1992 documentary film Supernormal, which was based on a series that delved into the supernatural ongoings of Hong Kong during that time. When the film crew went to shoot the interior of Sai Yin Poon building, he could see a priest looming in the background. On closer observation, the young man realized that the priest was floating instead of walking. As he was starting to get scared of his realization, the priest in the screening seems acknowledge the fact that he had been noticed, and his face started to cover the entire screen, traumatizing the boy. Of course, only he could saw it, and when he cried and switched off the TV, he pissed off his mother who was watching beside him. Years later, the journalist shared this with his friends who laughed at his juvenile folly. He then challenged those who laughed at him to visit the building, as he wanted to prove them wrong. The group of them went after the sunset, and the eerie corridors of the building were enough to freak out his distractors. Just then, the young journalist told them the exact spot he saw the ghostly priest. Of course, no one spotted anything, leading to the continual ribbing by his friends. Disgruntled, the young journalist said out loud, Father, are you here? I was the boy who spotted you many years ago.
I am here all this time. Don't come in here to disturb the souls here.
A booming voice responded to him from the dark. Hysteria ensued, and the whole gang scampered out of the building, and the journalist was proven right after all. Now let's go into a scary account of a student who lived around 2 High Street some years ago. Ko was a student from Guangdong province in China who managed to get a place in the prestigious University of Hong Kong. However, due to his belated admission, he failed to get a residence in the dormitory. Fortunately, his lodging worries was resolved when he saw a rental notice for a small apartment along High Street and at an affordable price of Hong Kong $900 per month. The location of the apartment was also 15 minutes walk to the university compound, which enthralled Ko. Before he signed on the contract, the landlord was nice enough to tell him,
Mr. Cole, just to let you know, the apartment building is well known to be haunted. Even I do not tell you now, your classmates will tell you eventually.
To Ko, as long as he had a roof over his head at this juncture, he was relieved. No ghost was going to spoil his parade. Therefore, he brought his belongings and moved in that small apartment at High Street that evening. This was the start of his nightmares. Ko's apartment was the very last unit on the dimly lit corridor. While he told himself to mind his own business, he could blatantly see many apartments' front door were pasted with talismans, and some neighbors even had deity altars set at the entrance of their houses. Aside from the over-the-top superstition observed, the occupants of his apartment building weren't the nice people you will meet in the neighborhood, as sung on Sesame Street. Living beside him were units occupied by a prostitute and an old man who had a penchant to flash his genitals. The strange guy in the unit below him got a history of being handsy with his customers while driving his cab. Beside neighbors he sworn to shun, Ko had a grueling chain of nightmares the moment he started living in that apartment. From being burned alive, to be chased down by weapon-wielding killers, to even being operated on the most visceral manner, Ko woke up many nights from being haunted by these never-ending nightmares. Still, Ko felt the nightmares could be the stress from moving to a new place and the start of college life, and to be truthful, there was nothing supernatural that bothered him. That thought was going to be outdated very soon. One day after school, Ko saw police cars parked along his apartment building and crime scene tape strewn around his lift lobby. After verifying he was a resident there, Ko was informed by one police officer that the prostitute living beside him had passed on. She had died for about 10 days, and the pungent smell from her decaying body had alerted other neighbors to call the police. A nosy neighbor told Ko that when they found the dead prostitute, her eyes and mouth were wide open, like she had been scared to death by something or someone. Ko, who had been grinding in school the past few days over a project, thus had not been alarmed by the smoldering smell. But he could have sworn just before he left for school a few days ago, he could smell freshly cooked food permeating from the prostitute apartment, so he assumed she was alive and well. As Ko tried to convince himself he might be overthinking, his paranoia started to grow in leaps and bounds. The next few days, whenever he passed the deceased prostitute's apartment, he could hear movements within and sound of TV transmissions, and at times, lights evidently were turned on. Even as he felt he might be imagining things, he still could not get over the fear of passing the apartment and made a mad dash past it every time. The nightmares persisted for poor Ko, and one night he actually dreamt of his deceased neighbor, standing at the end of their dark corridor, but Ko could see her smiling and said,
I will come look for you soon.
The post-traumatic syndrome carried on, when he started getting whiffs of a pungent smell of dead rats in his apartment. Lo and behold, he actually found 3 dead rats underneath his bed. There was no rhyme or reason how the dead rats got there, but Ko stoically just cleaned up and did not dare to think too much into it. Although he was not chummy with most of his neighbors, there was a docile uncle who lived on the 2nd floor that Ko befriended and established a deep friendship with. The uncle was a retired chef. One day, through simple conversation while waiting for the elevator, Uncle told Ko he reminded him of his own son who had migrated overseas. From then on, Uncle had always invited Ko to his place for meals, which for an overseas boarding student was a gracious gesture. 3 months after the prostitute death, when life starting to resume to normalcy for Ko, he was once again invited to dine at Uncle's house. That day, Uncle was uncharacteristically solemn, with brows furrowing like something been bothering him. When Ko asked Uncle out of concern, he was not prepared for the outburst from his friend.
Move out! Move out! If not, it will be too late.
Uncle was hysterical and started mumbling like going into a trance. Ko was taken aback, but he tried his best to coax Uncle down. And when Uncle starting to calm down, he narrated a story Ko will never forget.
Years before you moved in, there was a previous murder case in this apartment. There used to be a family of 3 living beside me. One night, I was woken up by an incessant banging on my door. After opening the door, I was taken aback to find the family leading me to let them stay at my place for that night, which of course I rejected. The family was in a frantic state. Their eyes were shifting along the corridor like on alert if someone was coming. Then the father told me they had been bothered by prank knocking of their front door from time to time. Although it was infuriating, they just tolerated with it. Lately, the frequency of such pranks grew, and sometimes there was an eerie woman's laughter when they opened the door to find no culprit. But what they experienced just now was too much for them to bear. When they opened the door, all 3 of them could see a pale lady in a nurse uniform along the corridor. Not before long, they realized she was floating on air without any feet. The lady then turned her head, and they could see her pupilless eyes that freaked them out. The lady then uttered, "They found me." The next moment was when they came looking to seek refuge at my place. I was skeptical, but seeing they were legit scared, I could not bear to refuse their wish to take refuge at my place. The next morning, they thanked me profusely and said they will move out as soon as they can. Sadly, they were all found dead by their landlord a week later. Each of them died with a ghastly expression. It was painfully tragic. Of course, I did not link their death to that ghost story they told me that night. However, recently, my front door started knocking, but when I opened the door, no one was there.
Fear overwhelmed Uncle's wrinkled face. Ko started to connect the death of that family of 3 with the recent demise of his neighbor, and wondered if no one was safe in that apartment building. He then suggested Uncle to come stay at his apartment.
There's no need. I have decided to move out. I had yet to see the lady nurse ghost, so perhaps I could still be saved. Ko, I'm warning you now, better move out soon.
Ko wanted to heed that advice, but he did not have the financial ability to move out at his own discretion, and he needed time to find a new place in the midst of his busy school curriculum. Ko then bid Uncle farewell, telling him to let him know when and where he was moving to. However, that was the last time Ko would see Uncle. The next morning, when Ko was en route to leave the building for school, he was startled by a gathering of police officers, which led him to Uncle's apartment on the 2nd floor. Uncle had died in the same horrific manner as the prostitute and the family of 3, eyes wide open and mouth agape. Ko knew there and then he needed to move out, which he did without consideration. 2 years had passed and nearing his graduation. As the horrific memories of the apartment building at High Street slowly faded, everything rekindled when he told some close classmates of this chilly tale. There was always bound to be one fella who thought he had the cojones to tempt fate, so he kept pestering Cole to bring him to that haunted apartment building. Unable to ward off the persistent pestering, Cole succumbed to the request and brought that friend and a few others to revisit the place that he once swore never to return. Boy, what a mistake it was. Once he entered the building, he could feel immense chill as goosebumps were raised in an alarming state. Then a lady voice could be heard by him and him alone.
I wanted to let you go. I guess not now.
Cole's fate was not known after that. The end. Thank you for your time. As usual, support all of us on the Lights Out channel on YouTube. You can join our group on Facebook and let us know if you have a supernatural story to share or what content you would like to see from us. So, would you want to visit 2 High Street one of these days? If you do, say hi to the priest for me.